So I have heard a lot of people asking me, Nomcebo, how do you memorize your poems? I mean, sometimes I'll be recording like 5-6 minutes poems. And the truth is, I know you won't believe it. I take this book. This is where I write my poems. Like a friend gave it to me. It's very precious. I really admire it. This is where I write my poems, and I place it. I sleep on it like this, and I sleep like, let's say I want to record the poem the following day, I just place my head like this, I sleep, and when I wake up the following day, the poem is already in my head.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, you're very much welcome. I am Nomcebo the poet. I am Umzilikazi Damashubane. Please do join the family, subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any video that I upload. So you guys, today I'll be sharing my secrets or my tips with you guys, how I memorize my poems. I believe these are tips that you can use whatever that you need to memorize, be it your speech, be it I don't know what you want, but for me I use it to memorize my poems. So you guys, and if you want to say the poems, just make sure that you go to my playlist and you will see their spoken word and you can listen to them as much as you want. Before we get to the actual tips, I actually wanted to share you the advantages or the benefits of having your speech or your poem really like in your head and you know it by heart. The first advantage is you will be able to connect with your audience. Let's say you have this poem or this speech written down and now you have to deliver it, but you don't know it by heart, so you'll be like there, like reading now and then, and you won't be able to connect with your people, you won't be able to connect with your audience, because you'll be losing eye contact and all that thing, and you won't even be able to tell whether your people are really vibing along with you or not, because you'll be reading it and your focus will be just here on the book or the paper instead of your people. Because when you have your speech or your poem like really in your head, you are able to face the people, you are able to look at them and you are able to see whether they are going along with you. Do you need to put some more effort, or the people that are watching you are the ones that are going to show you whether they understand or not. So it is very important that you don't read, you just look at them, keep eye contact, look at the way they're reacting, and so you just know, like, just create that bond, that kind of a thinking. And the second benefit is free expression. When your hands are free, you can be able to deliver whatever that you want to say. The hands are very important when it comes to performance, when it comes to reading, when it comes to gestures and illustrating something. If you are going to have your paper here or your book here, reading and all that, how are you going to express whatever that you're saying with your hands? Let's say you are saying this poem and it's so emotional, and or maybe it's just like you need to wave something around, like how are you going to do it with your hands on books or your hands on the paper? I say PS, like PRs, you need your hands to be free. So yeah, you can be able to like put the emotions, you can be able to express it and just be there in the poem and feel it, and just vibe along, like like I'm doing right now, like I am feeling what I'm saying. Okay, let's get to tip number 1. Okay like that's the very most important. Okay, tip number 1: section your poem in stanzas. You can even do it line by line if it is really giving you hard time to memorize it. Sectioning the poem is going to help you memorize it first, because you'll be focusing at a certain piece, like just for that moment, other than trying to memorize everything. Like, as long as it is, my goodness, it's just going to give you a headache. And you can even write one sentence in one line, do you understand? So because you'll be just there like memorizing one thing at the same time. Let's take an example. This is a poem I have here entitled Depression. I think I have it on my channel. You can just look at my playlist, spoken word. It's one of the poems I posted when I started this channel. It says, sometimes I went to bed with fear, wondering if my heart would make it to the next morning. Those are already 3 sentences, like, oh, it's long, like 3 lines. So you can just start like this. As you can see, it is in stanzas. You can choose to make it even like fewer lines in one stanza. Let's say 3 or 4 or 5. It depends on how you write, but it is very important to make sure like you just take a bite, like small, because you can't just swallow everything at once. It's just not possible, you know. Like, sometimes I went to bed with fear. Sometimes I went to bed with fear. Sometimes I went to bed with fear. You know, already that line is already like in your head. Sometimes I went to bed with fear. You have memorized it, and then you go to the next one, like wondering if my heart would make it to the next morning. Wondering if my heart will make it in the next morning. Then you go back to where you started. Sometimes I went to bed with fear, wondering if my heart will make it to the next morning. Already we have that in mind, and then you go to the next line, until you have everything covered. You do one line, you memorize it. You add another one, you memorize it. You add another one, you memorize it. You go back to the start. Same thing over again until you have covered the whole thing. For me, this is like 3 pages. Look at this face. Anyways, this was my tip number 1. One line at a time until you have, you know, covered everything. The next tip is focus on your transitions from one stanza to the other. Now you have your poem divided or sectioned in stanzas, or your speech in paragraphs. Pay attention on how the next stanza is starting. That is why it is very important to start in a way that you'll be able to memorize. If it is hard for you, I also have moments where I'll just be there, like, you know, saying my thing and doing my thing and my singing, but then I just find myself stuck because I don't remember which paragraph or which stanza is following next, and you just like, oh my goodness, what is next? Sometimes I'll just maybe write like the first word of each stanza. Let's say in, like, I have this stanzas. At first there's some time, and then the following one is like many a times, and then like the other one is the problem. You see, I will know that, okay, the one is like many a times. Now I'll just remember what that whole stanza is about, and then obviously then I'll just flow. That is why when I write my poems, I make sure that one stanza has the same meaning and context. Like, the context in one stanza is like relatable, the one thing, so I won't lose, you know, focus. Oh, what is it about? So I know if I'm talking about going to bed with fear, all that stanza is just going to be about that thinging, like the same thing. And then the next one, if it's talking about prayer, then all the lines that are going to be there, they're just going to be about prayer. They're relatable. That is why pay attention on how you are transitioning your stanzas. That would help you. You don't get stuck finding yourself, you don't remember what it's like going to be, like what's next. I hope you understand it. And then the next tip, which is tip number what? Anyways, it's as important as the others that I've said. Record your poems and then listen. Record your poems and then listen. Just take your book, get your phone or whatever you use, whatever device you use to record, and just read, and then you listen as if you're listening to music or whatever other thing that you're listening to. Just take your phone. Like, sometimes I went to bed with fear, wondering if my heart would make it to the next morning. It was heavily loaded with loads of pain. I had my soul detached from my body, the two standing on cliffs of disorder and what not. Say it until the end, and then just close your book and then listen to it. That can also help, you know, because now it's like listening to music. If it really requires you to get to this point, just make it. Go there, record, and then listen to it. And the more you listen to it, the more it is going to be stuck in your head. Got it? Yes. The next tip, I think it is tip number 4. Read it over and over again. Read it over and over again. Read it over and over again. they say practice makes perfect. I believe that when you read over and over again, that's when you're going to remember something. How can you not remember something that you have read 100 times? How can you not remember something that you have read 10 times? So when you read it more and more and more and more and more, obviously that's where it's going to be like mastered in your head. That's where you're going to remember, other than just reading it once and then you expect it to be like already in your head. Girl, which one about, huh? Just take time, read it over and over again. In sometimes maybe you cannot even like try to memorize it, like I'm memorizing it. Just read till the end. Read till the end. You will realize that as you read now, it just comes. You probably don't even have to check anymore which sentence is next, because you have been reading this thing and now you know that when I finish the sentence, this is the one that is following. And before you realize, you won't even be needing the book, you know, because it will just already be in your head and you're just saying because you've been reading over and over again. The last tip, can you guess which one is it? Which one is it? Believe in the power of your mind. Guys, everything begins in your mind, your mindset. If you are going to tell yourself that I just can't memorize this, for me it is hard for me to memorize poems, I just have a short memory, or what not, you know, all those things we usually say. The mind is very, very powerful. If you are going to be feeding yourself with all that things that I can't memorize, I easily forget things, that is what your mind is going to believe. No matter how you try, you can section it in stanzas, you can read it over and over again, you can focus on your transitions, you can listen to it and you know, whatever that other method or whatever way you memorize the thinking, it won't work, because in your head you have already told yourself that I just can't memorize this. You know, I think I am a victim of that when it comes to the power of the mind. I'm one person who believes that it is hard for me to memorize poems that are not written by me. That is why almost all the poems that we have listened to, they are my work. I write them myself. I think there's only one poem here that I posted that was not written by me. And the truth is that poem took me like days, you know, and recording it was like headache. I even have the bloopers here. You should check them. I'll just suggest the link there, or you can go to my playlist and check out random videos. Yo, like it was hard because my mind was like, I can't memorize a poem that is not written by me. It is hard for me to do that. And I had told myself that over and over. Since I started poetry, I have been telling myself that I only do my original work. And now I found myself, you know, having to memorize a poem that was not written by me. It was a struggle because, like I said, I have already conditioned my mind to believe that I only memorize faster poems that are written by me. So guys, it is very, very important to feed your mind positive attitude, to be in a positive zone. Like, just tell your mind that I can do this, I can memorize it. And you believe me, you like, it will just be like, wow, really, I've done this. Your mind is very powerful. That was my last point, but I have a bonus point for you. Girls, find a quiet place. I know some people, they say, I do better when I listen to music, I study better, whether it's studying or not. But okay, this is not studying. But some people, they feel like they memorize faster when there's like some music in the background or whatever. But there are moments where you just need to be in a quiet place. For me, because I'm sharing most of these things from my experience, for me, sometimes I just need to have a quiet place. I live in a hostel where there's like a lot of noise. Sometimes I'll just leave and maybe sit by the balcony there and just memorize and just read and try to get it in my head. Have a quiet place, a quiet moment, you know, where your body will feel relaxed and your mind will be relaxed, so you won't be competing with the noise around you. It will just be you and your thingings and anything like that. I know I had said that was my bonus point, but I have another one. I'm just generous like that. Another thing that you can do is to write it down. over and over again. I think I've said this. I think it goes along with the reading it over and over again. But I believe that writing it by hand can be very, very, very helpful, especially if you are the kind of person who writes maybe on a computer or on your phone. It's not the same when you're writing it by hand. Just take a book, and that's why sometimes I also have a book like this, because I write some of my poems there as much as I also write on my phone. Writing it by hand, I just believe that how can you forget something that you wrote yourself? How you can forget it, of course, but memorizing it shouldn't be a struggle. So if it's like really that bad and you just can't seem to focus, you know, and memorize this thing, you should consider writing it down hand by hand. You can even do it over and over again. Even back in high school when we were studying, there are people that would rewrite their notes and all that just so they can remember them, and for them it was a way of studying. For me, I would just read like I'm reading a novel, and that is how I do my poems. I just read them and somehow I manage. But it's never really a struggle for me because, like I said, I write my own poems. How can you forget something that you wrote it yourself? I mean, these are your thoughts, these are your observations, these are opinions, so I really don't struggle that much. But I am here, I'm delivering these points for you. And if you have other ways and methods or tips that you have that I didn't list and you would share, please, I would really appreciate, because sometimes I do struggle. I won't lie, I do struggle. I do, and I'll really be happy if you can share with me how you memorize your poems, and I can try and just do my thinking when I'm doing my thing. I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. Please remember to subscribe, remember to like, comment, leave your comment, because that's how I know you watch, but you should also leave a comment so I know that you were here and you did watch. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on my next video. Bye. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching. Let's see. In stanzas or your speech and paragraphs. This is going to help you to memorize quicker or faster, most quickly. Is there anything like quicker than me? It is good to have your piece in your head so you can be able to just to be free, express yourself, and you know, what am I saying? So yeah, you